Good morning, ladies. I'm so happy to be here. I thank Zamira for this beautiful invitation. Can everyone hear me? I hate sitting and talking. I'm a teacher, so I have to be in front. I have to be in front of people. We'll tell you a little bit about our organization in a minute, but I think I want to get into the program and share with you some of the stories that really exemplify ואהבת לרעך כמוך. I think that's really the heart of it. And why are we talking about it? We're talking about it because we're in the 9 days right now. And as Zamira said so wonderfully, we really have this keen awareness of what's going on and what these 9 days are all about. And we recognize the destruction, and we feel all of the pain, and we feel the sorrow. I think it's really heightened this year. And so how do we change that? What do we do? And I think one of the things that I'd like to offer you is an opportunity to really get inside ואהבת לרעך כמוך and share our power as women, our power, our innate bina that we have of what to say, how to do something, when to step in, what to do. And if nothing else, I hope that we leave with a sense of empowerment through some of the stories that we're going to share with you and some of the ideas, because that's what it's all about. We can never underestimate the power that we have, the internal kohos that Hashem has given us. So I want to start with a story. As Zamira said, I am a teacher. I was a teacher until they told me that I had to retire, which I didn't understand altogether. And one of the things that I do, in addition to teaching, is matchmaking. I happen to love it. I've been doing it for 25 years now, work with older singles. It's another talk. But for today, I want to share a story that happened right after we made Aliyah. We come from Cleveland, Ohio. And so in Cleveland, I was working with a group of women that would sit around and we'd share names and we'd try to get singles married. And it was a wonderful experience. But then I came here and nobody knew about me. And I wasn't on any websites. And so I put my name out there. I sent it on different groups and so forth and so on. And I got a call one day from a woman. And she tells me about her cousin. Now, ladies, this was just something that I wasn't paying attention to her name or the details or anything. I just want to get not about her, but about her male cousin. Okay, so he was 28, and he was married and divorced, and he has a 3 or 4-year-old daughter, and I'm writing as fast as I can write because I want to get the information, and it sounded like somebody that I'd like to work with. And so my husband and I made an appointment with him, and we ran into the city. We don't live in Jerusalem, but we ran into the city, and we met him, and he seemed like a really good guy. And I had some ideas, and we tried to move things forward. And about a week later, this woman calls me back. And now I'm listening to her name. And I'm saying to myself, wait a second, that's the same name. Okay, so cousins could have the same name, right? But something said to me, why don't you ask her what the relationship is between her and this gentleman? And I did. She was the ex-wife. She was the ex-wife. And I sat there, stunned, and couldn't believe it. And it wasn't long after that he got married. And it wasn't long after that she also got married. Okay? Stepped out of her comfort zone to do something that would help her former husband. It took my breath away. Okay? Another story that I want to share with you is about a dear friend of mine and the conversation she had with her Rav. Her profession was marketing, and she had her daughter at an older age, and she saw that her daughter was miserable in kindergarten. absolutely miserable. She would develop stomach aches. She didn't want to go to kindergarten. She would come home crying. It was awful. And she said, she called her rabbi, and she said, I don't know what to do. How can I help my daughter? And she said, what's the problem? And she said, I don't know, but it has something to do with language, because she's not picking up the letters. She's not putting them together, and it's making her miserable, and she's a smart child. She can speak perfectly, she understands relationships, but she can't do something with letters, and I don't know how to help her. And the Rav said, don't send her to school, because she's going to be miserable, and then you're going to be miserable. But why don't you do some research and see what the problem is? And my friend, who had no background at all in education, started digging and digging and digging and digging, and found out that her daughter had dyslexia. And there was nothing for her. And my friend said to herself, you know what? Because she's in marketing, she says, I don't know anything about this, but I'm going to do two things. Number one, I'm going to go back to school. I'm going to get some training in this whole field. And with that training, I'm going to open a school, not just for my daughter, because if my daughter is suffering, then there have to be other Jewish girls out there that are also suffering. And she knew as a mother that she was not alone, that there must be other mothers out there that are suffering. And she went back and she got a master's degree, and she learned a specific technique for teaching children with dyslexia. And she opened a school. And there were maybe 4 or 5 students the first year. And the next year there were more. And the next year there were more. And after they graduated from her school, these girls were able to go into a regular school and be in regular classes. She gave them skills. She gave them self-confidence. She gave them hope. She gave them a future. And that school was in existence for 16 years until it closed. And it was the most exciting experience. But she had no training in this. She had nothing, but she forced herself to go back and learn so that she could give to others, okay? Which I think it's remarkable. I want to share another story with you that happened to me. Okay, as Zamira mentioned, I have an organization, and I do a lot of traveling. Not during COVID, but before COVID, after COVID. And on one of the trips, I sometimes travel with my husband, but this trip was not with my husband. And I was staying with this wonderful woman, and I'm very goal-oriented, okay? Today, I'm speaking in this community. I have to walk over here, and I have to get the bus, and they're going to take me to the community where I need to go, and so forth and so on. And I'm always in a hurry. Even when I'm not in a hurry, I'm in a hurry. And I was walking, and maybe you've seen it on, they may not have it so much in Yerushalayim, but there's a pad at the end of the sidewalk that had raised bubbles on it. Do you know what I'm talking about? Okay, so I'm not paying attention, and my shoe gets caught in one of those bubbles. The next thing I knew, I'm on the sidewalk, okay? And I landed on my left knee and my right elbow. And someone came over and said, well, do you need help? I said, yes, I need to get to the place where I'm going. He said, well, I can't help you. I said, that's wonderful. You need us to call Hatzalah? No, I'm fine. Of course, I always think I'm fine. And I got up, and I'm like, okay, I think I can do this. Dust myself off, walk to the bus. But I'm noticing that this hand is not working so well. The movement that I'm doing right now, back and forth, is not happening. Okay, I'm like, but I have to give the talk. I have to give the talk. I didn't have their phone number. I had a cell phone, and I went and I gave the talk. And if I'm giving the talk, I'm kind of patting my elbow inside. Nobody's noticing. And I see that there's an egg, like an egg right here, that from swelling. And I'm like, well, I have to finish the talk. I have to get back. That's what I'm going to do. So I got back. And this wonderful woman where I was staying said, so how was the talk? I said, The talk was fine, but I have a little problem. I fell, and my arm is really sore. Now, this woman has a lot of children, and so she's used to accidents and so forth. She said, we're going to try all the normal things that people do. We're going to put ice on it. We're going to elevate it. We'll give you some aspirin. We'll do everything, and we'll see if it goes away. And Baruch Hashem, it came with insurance and so forth and so on. So we tried everything, and nothing's going away. And the day is getting longer and longer, and nobody's going to see us. I have insurance, but nobody's taking my insurance, not a private doctor. And so I called one of our friends in Cleveland, whose husband's a doctor, and she said, go to the emergency room. They have to take you. So I went to the emergency room at a very large hospital. But this wonderful hostess said to me, I'm not letting you go there alone. I said, why? She said, I don't know what they're going to do. You need somebody to go with you. I'm taking a book, and I'll go. And it was 8 o'clock at night. Okay, so I'm used to places like TORAH. You go in, you're out in an hour, you know, it's quick, easy, no problem, right? Okay, so we get there. She took a thick book. She could have taken 2 thick books. We were there for 8 hours. 8 hours, okay? And yes, I had broken my elbow. I had broken my elbow. Now, there was a problem with that because I couldn't wear any of the clothes that I brought because they bandaged my elbow. So we had to figure out what I was going to wear, and she sat there, and luckily, one of my friends in our community here in Israel made a wedding, and she was probably days before delivering a baby, okay? So she needed to wear something that was going to cover all of that up. So I said, get me a shawl. Get me a shawl. Nobody will see my arm, and I won't be able to change my clothes or do anything, but just put a shawl on, and will help me with my sheitel, and we're done. And that's what she did. And nothing was too big for her. Nothing. She just put herself out and made me feel like I had dignity. And that was really important, to restore the dignity, the tikkun, and all of these things that to me are so powerful and so wonderful. And on that note, I want to turn you over to my dear colleague and wonderful friend, Fege Goldstein, who has some beautiful stories to share with you as well.
Thank you, Zamira, for having us. Thank you for having us, allowing us to share with you. One of the things about ואהבת לרעך כמוך, we all know the famous story, okay? The guy wanted to convert, he goes to Rav Shammai, and Rav Shammai says, no, go away, get away, we don't want you. Basically, that's the bottom line. And Hillel says, okay. He said, but I want to learn the Torah on one foot. He says, ואהבת לרעך כמוך, go learn Torah. Okay, we all know this, we all think about it. And obviously that person did exactly that. But what does that mean to us? We as women, as Chaya was saying, to empower ourselves. How do we do ואהבת לרעך כמוך? We all have our things that bother us. We have this child that might get on our nerves, and this thing that my husband might have done, and this thing that someone else might have done. And my neighbor didn't speak nicely to me. She was very rude, and I really needed to talk to her, and all the different things that go on in life, whatever they may be. So one of the things when I first moved to this country that kind of took me by surprise, okay, I became Balit Tshuva when I was 29, and we were brought up secular, but we were brought up a Jew as a Jew, with a Sephardi, Ashkenazi, Hasidic. I never thought about all those things. My grandfather and my grandmother had a bungalow colony, upstate New York. And in that bungalow colony, half the family kept Shabbos, and half the family didn't. And these beautiful neshamas who kept Shabbos never said anything to us. Hello, Fegela, good Shabbos, how are you? Hello, Tanta Zlati. Hello. Literally, these were the people that I grew up with seeing keeping Shabbos. But I was never really interested in it till I became much older. But they never said, oh, you see? Look at your grandfather. He goes into shul. My grandfather would not miss a minyan. We had tons of animals on the bungalow colony. He would not sit down to eat a meal until he fed all the 20 cats and the 20 dogs that we literally had running around the bungalow colony. We were brought up with this feeling that Yiddishkeit is something important. But we were okay the way we were. We were never looked down upon, never. And this left a lasting impression on a little child. So that years later, when I came to Frumkeit, I contacted this family that had been from their whole lives, and some of them are modern, and some of them are Hasidim, and some of them are this, and so. So I was brought up with a family that's the way I learned life. So I came to Eretz Yisrael, and it was a year before the Gulf War. And I was kind of taken back. I said, well, what do you mean he's this and he goes to this shul? And what do you mean he looks like this and he wears this? And what do you mean he comes from a different European country, Eastern Europe and Western Europe? What does all these things mean to you? Doesn't mean anything to me. I like everybody. I had no compunctions to think like that. And I literally drove my husband Mishuga. The whole first year. I drove him crazy. I want to go home, I want to go home, I want to go home, I want to go home. Why? I don't feel comfortable here. I don't like the sinas chinam that I see. I don't like the differences here. I'm not used to it. It doesn't interest me. I don't like it. I want to go home. And then the Gulf War came. I don't know how many of you were here, remember the Gulf War. We're here during the Gulf War. And I lived in a certain community that was a very small community. My sister, Baruch Hashem, also happened to live there. And the first day after the Tiolim came and the missiles came, and we heard everything from Ramat Gan, we went out to the park. And in the middle there was a siren, so we went home, but it was quiet. It was silent. And then the next day, all of a sudden, everyone's knocking on the door because I, Baruch Hashem, was pregnant with my second child, and my oldest was around 9 months. And what do you need? You need something from the grocery. What do you need? No, come on, okay, we're making packages for the soldiers. Okay, let's go. Everyone's saying Tehillim. Let's go, let's do. The amount of Ahavas Yisrael just flowed out of these people's hearts. It was a whole different ballgame. Guess what? I never asked my husband to go home again. Okay, so this kind of thing that's in our hands, that empowers us, that makes us feel wow, and it makes us feel good and spreads the love, as they say, okay, are things that are small but not small. What I'm going to tell you now is an amazing story that I'm still in shock that we went through. My mother-in-law, Shalom, passed away. She was living somewhere in Florida. And she was not religious, but she wasn't against us. She was okay with us most of the time, okay? She had her things that she didn't understand. And she had gotten sick. They had found a lung in her tumor, and they kept saying, no, it's benign, everything's fine. They did a lot of biopsies. All of a sudden, she had called us. She said, listen, I'm going into the hospital for a test, and I'll be out in 2 days. So we called, and my stepfather-in-law, who unfortunately has sundowners, didn't know what was going on. We got him on the phone, and he started crying, she has cancer, and she's going to pass away, and you don't know she has cancer, and we didn't know what was going on. And Kathy, he brings out this name out of the blue, is helping me. He's going to take me to see Rona, my mother-in-law, over Shalom, later. And I said, wait a minute, who's Kathy? Oh, she's this lady who's helping us. She helped us cremate Larry, that was my brother-in-law. And now when Rona passes away, she's going to help us. I said, what do you mean she's going to help you? I said, you know what? He didn't understand what he was talking about. He was very confused, and he starts crying again. Rona's passing away. Rona's going to be nifter. Rona's going to die. I said, do you have Kathy's phone number? Baruch Hashem, the number was on the refrigerator. And I said, okay, give me this phone number. And I pick up the phone and I call this person. And she says, no, everything's fine. She's coming home in 2 days. You can call it home in 2 days. I said, well, does she have a phone in her room? Can we call her? Because I'm not able to travel. I have a disability and I'm not able to travel. And my husband wasn't emotionally able to travel. So it was something that we just couldn't do. Okay. He couldn't do it. He couldn't get on the plane. He couldn't do it. He doesn't drive. He doesn't know. Whatever. We haven't been in the States in many, many, many years. So she said, no, call in 2 days. We call in 2 days. No answer. We call again. We call. Literally 15, 20 times. Okay. In the meantime, I got Kathy again on the phone. She said, no, everything's fine. Okay. We call 3 days later. Now, my father-in-law finally answers the phone. He had a helper who helped him answer the phone. And he's crying. She was nifter. Excuse me? My husband goes into disbelief and shock. So I said, what do you mean she was nifter? So he said she was nifter, and he talks to my husband, and my husband hangs up the phone, and I try to call Kathy. Not once, not twice, 20 times, she doesn't answer. Okay. In the meantime, Eddie, my stepfather-in-law, had said, oh, yeah, and by the way, Rona's going to get cremated. Just like Kathy helped us with Larry, my brother-in-law, she's going to get cremated. Excuse me? She's going to get cremated. So now my husband goes into double, triple shock. He doesn't know what to do. I don't have any experience. I mean, I'm a nurse and I have life experience, but cremation? Okay. So I picked up the phone and I called my Rav, and my Rav said, okay, try this, try this, try this. And in the meantime, tried to find out if she was really nifteris, because my husband's not believing it. No, she's not nifter. I said, I think she is. No, I'm sure. It's got to be a mistake. Finally, I called the assisted. They were living like an assisted living, but they were atzmai. They were independent. And they won't tell me anything. The only one that we tell something to is Kathy. Kathy is the health advocate. Who is this Kathy? Okay. I said, okay. So now, and by the way, we called the hospital. They said, oh, we'll tell you that she went to a hospice, and she passed away in a hospice. And that's all they would tell us. What hospice? They won't tell us. I call all the hospices in the area where she lived. And I have to remember, I'm on the phone. I don't know who I'm calling, what I'm doing. And finally, we get the hospice where she passed away. We can't tell you anything. You're not Kathy. You can imagine how frustrating I'm getting. And I'm thinking, what do I do? How do I work this out? What am I doing? I'm in America. I'm in Israel. She's in America. What's going on? We remembered the name of the funeral home, which is also a crematoria, where my brother had been. And we pick up the phone, and we call the crematoria. And I said to my husband, now you have to get on the phone and just tell them you're the son and see if she's there. No, but even if they tell me, I said, just see if she's there. Just see. Lo and behold, b'siyata dishmaya, she was there. Now, we got the person on the phone, and we asked for the head, the director, because we said, we want to understand, you think she's going to be cremated? That's the plans? She left a will saying that? I told my husband what to ask. I said, find out. He didn't, my husband really couldn't get the words out. So I got on the phone. I said, look, I'm the daughter-in-law, and listen, I'm going to tell you something. Okay, we are Orthodox Jews, and we don't cremate. And my husband is the next of kin. I think that maybe there's some kind of a misunderstanding here. He said, look, I can't do anything. This Kathy person is the health advocate, and the husband wants it. I said, okay, B'Seder Gamor. We'll be back in touch with you shortly. I picked up the phone and I called Zaka. I don't know how I got this into my head. And I just said, I got to call somebody. What am I going to do? I'm here. They're there. What am I supposed to do? The people in Zaka were so kind. Wait a minute. Okay, here's this name. Here's this name. Contact this lady in Agudas Israel. Contact. And I'm on the phone now. We're on the phone now for hours. And finally, we go around and we get a hold of a lawyer through Zaka and through Agudas Israel. He says, yeah, but I don't really do this. And I'm in New York and I'm going on vacation. He said, but I'm not going to leave you hanging. So he gives me the name of this amazing human being named Mendy Mayberg, who's a lawyer, who's a frum man, who learned this type of law. Specifically, it's not his parnosa. He does pro bono for people because we're sitting here, we're in Eretz Israel. We don't know what's going on. We don't have any money. We don't have any way to take. He says, in 5 minutes, call me back, you're going to have an injunction. And in 5 minutes, literally, we had an injunction. And it was stopped. Okay, great. Then we hear that Kathy is suing us. She wants to have the cremation. She's going to get her cremation. Not only is she suing us, but she's trying to take my mother-in-law's inheritance. And she took Eddie, my stepfather, to move in with her. And literally she kidnapped him. We don't know where he is to this day. Agudas Israel called the police. We tried everything we could. I'm telling people reached out from all over the world to help me. Agudas Israel called, the police said, no, everything's fine, we investigated. Kathy has a brother-in-law in the police in Florida, in the town where she lives. Now, how is all this information coming to me? People all over Florida, people all over the world are reaching out to me. This tremendous amount of ואהבת לרעך כמוך. And the story doesn't end here. Okay, we have an injunction. We're fighting. We're trying to get a court date. We're trying to build up all the evidence. Kathy goes into the funeral home with Eddie and has his body moved to a different part of the funeral home. Imagine the koach this woman has, okay? Now she's trying to take my mother-in-law. She's insisting that she has to have a cremation and that they were going to get, I started crying when I heard this. They were going to get an urn that my mother-in-law and my brother-in-law and Eddie could be buried in. I didn't know what to do with myself. Oh my goodness, what am I going to do here? Well, we didn't give up. And people from all over the world, I got emails and WhatsApp all over the world. Don't give up, we'll help you, we'll help you, we'll help you. And if this can't help you, we're going to find this to help you. And if this can't help, and then I end up, okay. So we get our court date, and she's still sitting in the freezer. Okay, we get a court date a month later. In the middle of the trial, Chasdei Hashem, my son-in-law and my husband, I forgot one piece of the story, which is important. The lawyer said to my husband, you have to come. My husband doesn't drive. My husband doesn't know anything about Florida. Okay. My son-in-law very bravely offers to go with him, and they go. They try to look and find Eddie. They go, they make a police report. They go to try. No, everything's fine. But somehow one of the police women slipped and told him Kathy's address. Kathy had moved Eddie into a new apartment. So they go there to try to knock on the door and to try to find Eddie. She gets hysterical. And she calls the police, and the manager of the condominium calls the police. And the police come and they threaten my husband and my son-in-law. If you come back here again, you're going to get arrested. Could you imagine this? This is like a story within a story within a story within a story. So they go back, they're staying in Orlando, in a certain community in Orlando. And they were traveling from Orlando to the place was about 2.5 hours away where my mother-in-law had lived. The people in Orlando rally around us and try to help us and give us such amazing chesed. And all the while, Mendy's fighting. Okay, now we get our court date. It was done on Zoom because my brother-in-law, my son-in-law and my husband had to come home. Wanted to stay there. It took another 2 months to get a court date. Now she's 3 months in the refrigerator. She's just sitting there, poor lady. Okay, this is chesed. This is amazing. ואהבת לרעך כמוך. People are reaching out. What do you need? What do you need? How can we help you? I said, well, I don't know. We just finally got the court date. They ask our side. We tell our story. And my son-in-law is looking at one of the lawyers and says, wait a minute. I spoke to him. He was one of the people I was trying to call to take on the case. Something's not right here. Now, we don't know this. My son-in-law quickly calls Mendy. It's Mendy's turn to start to cross-examine. Mendy brings up, excuse me, Your Honor, if I can, I have something that I need to tell you. And Mendy proceeds to tell him, tell her, it was a female judge, hey, listen, this lawyer is not legit. And the lawyer starts screaming and yelling, what are you talking about? And of course not, and blah, 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 everything. The judge looks at him and says, get out of my courtroom. Get out. And not only that, but you're going to lose your license. You gave personal information, because there's certain information that we knew they had, we didn't know how they had it. And now we found how they had it. Okay, this is after 10.5 hours on Zoom. It's very late at night. The judge says, I'm sorry, we're going to have to start the case over again. Okay. My mother-in-law's still sitting in the refrigerator. She's sitting there. And people are davening, and people from all over the world. I'm getting emails from people all over the world. The chesed, the Yavas Yisrael, what can we do? What do you need? This is such a terrible situation. I said, look, we can daven, we can say Tehillim, and we can just daven. There's nothing else to do here. Okay. We get another court date, October 12th. The war started October 7th. The judge says, I'm concerned. What if there's a power out? What if the war escalates? I don't think it's a good time to do the court date. So I said to my husband, and my lawyer said, listen, I suggest we listen to the judge, and I suggest we do what she says. Now, our hearts are breaking. Here we are, we want to get her buried. We want to have our court case. We talked to the Rav. I told my husband, it's your decision. Whatever you decide on Ba'ad, I'm 100% behind you. And he said, well, what do you think? I said, if it was me, I wouldn't have the court case. Because if we do have that power outage, or we do have something, that judge is going to be royally broiling that we wasted her time, even though it's not in our control, which is exactly what our lawyer said. Okay. Next court case is in December. October, November, December. December comes along, and they tell their side, and our brilliant, fantastic lawyer catches her in many, many lies, and many, many misnomers and misconceptions and mistruths. And they say, okay, in 30 days, I'm sorry, this is November. In 30 days, in the end of December, you'll get your answer. So now we hear, no, you can't get an answer because she's making an appeal. Excuse me? So people are still, what's going on? What's going on? What's going on? What can we do? What can we do to help? My friends rallied around me. We sat and said to Hillel, I didn't know what to do with myself. It was completely and totally overwhelming and heartbreaking. And we sat and we just decided, okay. So now we have to wait 30 days. Thank God no appeal comes in. Okay. It's now January. We get the final results. My mother-in-law was buried in January. Baruch Hashem. But people who didn't know me, and people, the amount of avas chesed from this one little, and it wasn't little, one thing. Could you imagine somebody you don't know, and here they are, they're facing this unbelievable challenge, and that's saying it politely, okay? Now, she's buried, Baruch Hashem. We still face the challenge that she claims my mother-in-law left her all her money. Yeah, there you go, her inheritance, and we're still fighting with her. This is the personification of what I consider evil. This is evil. But what I believe got us through and what kept me going was the Avas Yisrael. All the people I didn't know, people I didn't know, everybody reaching out. So in doing Avas Yisrael, in fighting the sinas chinam and evil and all the things that are going on, we have to look around and see what other people need. What do you need? I didn't need people to send me meals. Baruch Hashem, I didn't need someone to do my shopping. I needed people to support me and be with me, and they were. And not just on a small level. If I tell you hours and hours, all those hours of the day and the night, I mean, it was a little hard to sleep when all this was going on. It was quite overwhelming. So, empowerment, helping each other, looking and seeing what the other person needs. Not what you think she needs or what you think the family needs, but seeing what they really need is a big tool, is a big way to empower yourself. I have another story, and it's a totally different kind of a story. In my work, I deal with many different people who abuse drugs, many different kinds of things that people suffer with. And it's a suffering. And I was helping a particular woman. She wasn't a girl, she was a woman. And she claimed that she was off drugs, and she claimed she was getting clean, and she was coming for counseling and going to NA and doing all her things. And she asked me to go to NA with her. And I said, okay, it's my year, I'm going to get my chip, will you come? I don't usually do those kind of things, but I felt she has no family in Israel. She's alone. Okay. I go, and she tells her whole story, and she's crying, and she's all happy, and she's got her chip, and it's very exciting, and we're all proud of her, and hugging and giving encouragement, and it was beautiful. But I had a feeling in the pit of my stomach. And my feelings in the pit of my stomach are pretty much on tune most of the time. The next day she comes to my house, stoned out of her mind. And I mean that she was scary, okay? And my heart's breaking in two. Thank God all my kids were in school and nobody was home. My husband wasn't home. And I thought to myself, what do I do here? I don't really want her in my house, but I can't leave her like this. So she comes into my house, And I sit her down and I say, listen, the whole story that you told yesterday, it's a lie. I said, yeah, unfortunately, I kind of thought so. I said, so what are you doing here? I need you. I need you to get me clean. I said, I can't. I can't do it for you. I can't help you. I'd love to. I'd love to take, hey, here's a magic pill. Wave my magic wand. You're cured. You're fine. You're not going to be suffering anymore. And so I said to her, you know what? Go lay down in one of the bedrooms and sleep it off a bit. Sleep a bit. Because she was like sitting, she could hardly stand up. So she went to sleep for 2 hours. When she got up, I fed her something. And I said, listen, I'm going to sound extremely mean to you. And I'm going to sound extremely unkind to you. But just know, you may not come back here until you are off the drugs, until you're clean. I can help get you into a rehab, but you may not come to my home again. And it really hurt to say that because you knew this was a person that had nothing and nobody. And what she had been through in her life was overwhelming for any other human being. But I did, and I stuck to it. A week later, I get a call from her, and she had gotten into rehab. And she got herself together, and today she's my age, and she's doing very well. But that kind of tough love and ואהבת לרעך we have to give, we have to know what to do in each situation. Sometimes we think we're doing a kindness and we're hurting somebody. Sometimes we think we're doing a kindness and we're not giving the person what they need. So when we're talking about tools for ואהבת לרעך and empowering ourselves, look around, see what's around you. Look around. Look at the seaboard, look at people. It's when I came to Yiddishkeit, I was 29, and I had a very, very beautiful experience coming to Yiddishkeit. Like I said, I had my family that was from took me in, and it was warm and heartwarming and amazing. And I didn't want to work as a nurse anymore. I had been working for Armatron Watches, which is, I don't even know if they exist anymore, and they were a Shomer Shabbos company. And I was still working for the Shomer Shabbos company. As soon as I became 100% integrated into Shabbos, I was laid off. Hashem gave me my first real Nisoyan. Not that I didn't have others, but I considered that really, oh boy. And I said, okay, I don't want to go back to work as a nurse. I want to work as, I don't know, something in care, a secretary, I don't know. I don't really know computers, I don't know much, but I'll learn, okay. So I went into I had lived in Queens at that time, and there was a Jewish Heritage Center, which was a place where you went in for Kiruv and whatever, and I was very close with the Rav there. And he said, listen, I have an idea for you. And he got me a job interview. The same day, my father, Olav Shalom, said, I have an interview for you. You have an interview tomorrow. And then someone else called me and said, you have an interview tomorrow. I have 3 interviews in one day. One was TORAH, one was Or Sameach, and one was Hebrew University. Okay. So I go on the 3 interviews, and each one is nicer than the next. And I get to the Jewish Learning Exchange, and in walks, I had an interview with a Rav, and then in walks this amazing person. Rav Yitzhak Kurzner, Olav Shalom. He used to run the Jewish Learning Exchange in California. He was beyond words, okay? And he comes into the interview for a total of 15 minutes. And I said to myself, I don't know what's going to happen with these interviews, but no matter what, I have to be close to this person. This is somebody amazing. And in that 15 minutes, he gave me such chizuk and such, keep going and don't worry that that you don't have a job and everything will be fine. And he ended up becoming my Rebbe. He passed away at 44, Olav Shalom. He left 12 children behind. He had 11 boys and 1 girl that they had the last child. He did amazing things for Klal Yisrael. And I was zocher to know him and learn with him. He was my learning. What happened was, I got all 3 jobs. So here I am, okay, now, and I told them the truth. I don't really know computers. I don't know don't worry, we'll teach you, we'll be with you. Don't worry, everything's fine. And I really wanted to work in Or Sameach because that's where Rabbi Kurzner was. But the salary, I had asked for too little. So I get a phone call from the Rav, and he says to me, look, we really want you. We really think you'll be, really, it's good for you. You have the personality. You're a people person. You'll be able to help us. We'll teach you the computers. Now, computers were very new then, so I was like, okay. And he said, what's the problem? So I said, well, I asked for too little money. I didn't think things through. I have rent. I have, my apartment, my car. I can't manage on what I asked. He says, okay, I'll give you $5,000 more a year. Now, in those days, that was a lot of money. So I took the job in OUisrael. And in OUisrael, I was zocher because of my background that they let me do interviews for the boys that were coming to the interview. They took me to Stony Brook College, and I spoke to the women. I really didn't need, I was pretty newly from. But Hashem gave me this hands-on learning, 1, 2, 3, and I started, okay. And I had the zchut of learning with Rabbi Kurzweil Olav Shalom every single day for an hour. Every day for an hour, that was my yeshiva. He wanted me to come to Neve and learn here for 6 months, but I said, look, I'm 30. I want to get married. I want to have kids. I don't want to sit in yeshiva. And I didn't do it. I came here. My sister was living here. I came here. I did I did some work for OUisrael, and I did 5 days in Neve to get to know so I could improve my work. And when I was here, unbeknownst to me, all the Rebbeim, when I came in for the interview, were standing behind me. She needs a shidduch. She needs a shidduch. All the Rosh Yeshivas, because they know me. And I'm like, okay. So I go into this gentleman's office, Rabbi David Weinberger, over Shalom, and he says, can I ask you a question? I'm like, sure. I figured he's going to ask me something, how good are you in computers? What do you know? He says, how old are you? So I said, well, I'm 30. But could you tell me what this has to do about work? He says, oh, no. This is not about work. This is about a shidduch. I'm like, okay. Now I was taken back. I wasn't prepared. And he introduced me to my husband. And 6 weeks later, I went home. My husband came back to America. And 6 months later, we were married. We came to Eretz Yisrael a month after that. All the kindness when I came here, all the things. People would come and help me unpack. Just the whole atmosphere. And then I just celebrated my 35th year here. Baruch Hashem, I'm 35 years in Eretz Yisrael. And the amount of things, the amount of growth, the amount of personal challenges have not gotten less. But what has gotten less, and the inspiration for ties and the inspiration for us, is that I am sitting here reaching out. I'm sitting here telling you about my life. I'm sitting here trying to show you that you don't have to be out there. I'm not a tzedekis. I'm not close. I'm just me. I'm struggling. I'm trying to do my things. But if I can do ואהבת לרעך כמוך the way I'm supposed to, and I can look out there and I can see women, all men, all children, and say, wait a second, something's needed here, and I can do it, I'm given a gift. And I give you the bracha of having this gift from HaKadosh Baruch Hu, that we should know what to see, do Ahavas Yisrael, and bring the Beis HaMikdash b'mheira v'yameinu. Thank you for your time.